Wow, that was a super dark episode of The Bad Batch, probably one of the darkest moments in Star Wars. Today, we're going to be covering that and more in this week's episode of The Bad Batch Review. Hello AAC Universe and welcome back to the Animated Apparel Company YouTube channel. I'm your resident Star Wars expert Grand Admiral Joey, and Bad Batch Episode 3 was awesome. And if you want to get 20% off everything in your cart at animatedapparelcompany.com, then make sure to use the offer code Joey. It'll help support the channel and keep the lights on in this place. This episode was a big step from the previous episode, and it definitely had a much more darker tone to it. I had a pretty poor experience with the last episode, and the internet was very quickly to let me know. In fact, my episode 2 review was the most disliked video across the whole channel, and this video has double the dislikes of its runner-up. So you'd think that naturally in this video, after already being burned so hard, I'd be praising and uplifting the songs of Omega and Task Force 99. And yes, that's somewhat the case. Now the difference is that this episode took a wide swing into the dark emotion of the clones and what a good soldier following orders mean. I did really enjoy this episode, and I think I can easily rate it an 8 out of 10. Hashtag Bad Batch save. And there's some things specifically in this episode that I want to bring up. First of that being the team is adjusting to having a kid on board of the ship, and I think so am I. I've been all over the place worried about having a kid in the main plotline, but I think I'm ready to accept and embrace that now. Next, let's talk about the new elite recruitment soldiers introduced to us by Admiral Rampart. These guys almost look like they could be Death Troopers, and they probably are the main idea of what the Death Troopers end up becoming, so I'm going to start referring to them as Phase 1 Death Troopers until we're given some kind of name than Elite Squad. It's also still obvious that Tarkin wants the clones out because recruited soldiers are considerably cheaper, but in this episode we see why recruited soldiers aren't as superior as clones that will just get the job done. The next thing I want to talk about in this episode, and it might still be a little too early to say it, but I think Omega might have used a Jedi or Force technique to calm the moon dragon. Although I'm still not fully convinced that she's Force sensitive, but I think now I'm maybe willing to put my bets that she is. The Kaminoans know they have to do something huge to keep their contracts with the Empire. We also know that they are still around years after the days of the Empire due to the Kaminoan crest on the uniform of Dr. Perishing. And why does Dr. Perishing want Baby Yoda? Because he's Force sensitive, further making me think that Star Wars is gearing up to bridge how the Kaminoans start cloning Force-sensitive beings. And of course we know that Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker is a clone who is Force-sensitive, further making me believe that this is the Kaminoans' next step. I think the signs are right there in front of us, and the Kaminoans are frustrated and probably willing to do anything to survive. This might just be how they stay relevant to the Empire. And the last thing I want to cover is the sad and probably most likely scenario of how the series is going to end. It's super early, but yeah, I'm gonna call it. What many are already speculating is that although the Bad Batch didn't react to Order 66 because of their genetic mutation, what more likely happened is that they haven't reacted yet. Yes folks, you heard it right here. I've got a $100 bet that the Bad Batch will eventually one by one turn on each other. And Crosshair had an early start, but the slight bump in Wrecker's head during the crash landing and his constant talks about a headache is what has led me to believe that he'll eventually turn and try to kill his brothers. I say that Wrecker is probably the most likable character as he's just a big mean teddy bear, but that's where the tragedy of the story lies. Next, we'll probably see Tech turn on Hunter and Omega. Echo will probably die in a very, very heroic way, and the only survivors of the team are going to be Omega and Hunter. Keep in mind, this is Dave Filoni who's directing this, and if you've seen the Clone Wars and Mando, we already know that he's going deep into our emotions when it comes to losing characters. Dave uses tragedy and stems it from the loss of people and loved ones, because that's what almost everyone can relate to. The Clone Wars and The Mandalorian were great examples of this. Think back to how we felt when we lost Duchess Satine in The Clone Wars and how when we lost Quill the Ugnaught from The Mandalorian. It is sad, but I see this being the story arc, and that bet is open to anyone that wants to take it. Just at me in the comments. Again, this was an awesome episode. 8 out of 10 easily for being such a short episode, but it was packed with so much detail. That's all I have for this video. Make sure to subscribe and check out the rest of the videos on the AAC channel. We have content that comes out 3 times a week, and you won't want to miss out on any of it. Also, just a reminder, use that offer code Joey for 20% off your entire cart at animatedapparelcompany.com. I'll see y'all all in the next AAC video. Bye!